Well, if Planet X exists, and I believe that it does, and if you make the assumption that it caused certain events or had certain effects on planet Earth, and while it was in the neighborhood of the solar system, I follow Sitchin's chronology pretty closely. I believe that it was here during the time of the Great Flood. I think it might have contributed, in fact, to the Great Flood, which I think occurred at the end of the last ice age, which was around 11,000 BC, which is 13,000 years ago approximately. I think that if you go with 11,000 BC as a rough estimate of where the flood occurred and where to start, and you divide by 3,600 year increments. And it's important to note, by the way, that the planet Nibiru, once it settled in after the collision and it settled into its orbit, this is something that I didn't mention, it settled into a 3,600 year orbit, a long ellipse, not circular, not counterclockwise, but a clockwise ellipse, like the orbit of a comet, And so if you divide that orbit of 3,600 years with a start date, a fixed point in time of the end of the last ice age, which I think would have caused the Great Flood. Now, if that dating is wrong, then there are some problems, and you can fudge the date of the end of the last ice age as much as 1,000 years plus or minus, approximately 11,000 BC, 13,000 from now. But if you use that, then you divide by increments of 3,600, and as Sitchin points out, at each division point, at say 7,400 BC, you have the moving from the Stone Age to the Iron Age, and these are not coming to mind right now. But then 3,600 years later, I think it's like 3,600 or 3,400 BC, 3,200. There's another big boost to human technology. I can't remember what that. Maybe the Copper Age or maybe the Bronze Age. But Sitchin seems to feel like Earth gets a boost in technology, a boost in knowledge every time Nibiru comes around. I don't know why that would necessarily be a function of it, because if the Anunnaki are here all the time, they could, give that boost at any point that they wanted to. So I'm not as sure of that. I base my theory, my belief in it, around the end of the last ice age and the Great Flood. If you divide by 3,600, working your way down, you get the last time Nibiru was here was around 200 BC. But if you waffle that a couple of hundred years to around zero, because it's not necessarily exactly like clockwork 3,600 years, that could be just an approximation. So if you bring it to around zero, the year zero, then I think you could explain the Star of Bethlehem, which is a reasonably well documented in that it was a star. Now, what was it? There are various theories about it being conjunctions of planets in the sky, but if you make the assumption that something was there for sure to be written about in the way that it was, I would think that Nibiru would be a good candidate for being the Star of Bethlehem, the unexplained, unexpected star in the sky. If it was, then that means it's 3,600 years until it comes around again. If you say the year zero is the start point, then that means we're 2,000 years into the orbit. That means it's just made its far turn out, its aphelion turn, and it's just beginning to come back. And we've got another, say, 1,600 years to go, and that would put it back here around 3,600. If we use 200 BC as the start point, then it would be 3,400 AD. In any event, it's certainly, in my opinion, not going to be back here anytime soon. Now, I know there is some talk now and discussion about the possibility that it may come in sooner. In 2003 is one theory that's being proposed, 2005, 2007, and of course the classic Maya 2012, the one that the Maya said is the end of one era and the beginning of a next. So I don't think it's any of those, and I don't think it could be, even the 2012. I think because Nibiru is supposed to be a large planet, 3 to 4 times larger than Earth, number one. Number two, it's supposed to be very bright in the sky, very bright. We would have to consider that to be caused by having a bright albedo, which is the amount of reflective power that it has, and I think that would come from it having a lot of water on its surface. And it's said to be a watery planet, and the Anunnaki were masters of water. If there's one fingerprint that you see of the Anunnaki wherever they lived, they absolutely turned desert made deserts bloom. They were geniuses with water and the movement of water and the conservation of water and the use of water. So let's assume that they're a water planet. If that's the case, if it is large, 3 or 4 times larger than Earth, and it does have a very bright albedo and shines very clearly, then it's going to be visible way out. And we have in the United States, but around the world, literally thousands of very serious, hardcore amateur astronomers who are amateur in name only because they take it very seriously. They have very good equipment, and they're in a race constantly to be the next person to find an incoming comet or an incoming asteroid, but particularly an oncoming comet. So they're looking out in the area where a planet or anything coming into our solar system would be visible. And in doing that, anything that was large and bright would be noticeable way out. And if anything was coming our way, it wouldn't be hard to put infrared on it and see if it was indeed coming our way, or if it was just sitting there. And this is one of the things that they do to try to pick out whatever's coming our way as they look for the redshifts. So there's a lot of intense effort going on around the world looking at 360 degrees of sky for that next big comet coming our way. If Nibiru was within reach of here with even a few years, it would, traveling at planetary speeds, at even the fastest of planetary speeds. Earth travels at like 65,000 miles an hour. You can do the math. You can figure it out. You can figure how many astronomical units out one might reasonably expect an object of that magnitude to be seen and of that albedo to be seen, and you can draw kind of an estimated X of where it should show up to your standard, average, good, high-powered amateur telescope. And then you divide that by different planetary speeds, and you wouldn't necessarily go with a comet speed or an asteroid speed because they're much smaller bodies. If this is a big body, you have to assume it's traveling at more planetary speeds. And you divide it out. And I think that what you would see is it would take literally years for something to move from that great distance where it would first be visible into the solar system proper. So I don't think it's possible that Nibiru is coming anytime soon. Nibiru probably caused or had some effect on the Great Flood because it was in the neighborhood, clearly because they had a meeting about what to do with the humans. When they knew the flood was coming, they had a debate about whether to let us live or let us die. And the vote was to let us die, in the same way that there was a close vote whether or not to make us in the first place. And the vote then was to make us, and when it came time to vote again, the vote was to let us die, to destroy us in the flood, let us be destroyed by the flood. The Anunnaki didn't make the flood, but they had to deal with it. When they knew it was coming, it was something that they did not have the power to stop. So as they anticipated it, they said, what do we do with the humans? They voted to let us die, and that was that. So it means that Nibiru was in the neighborhood. Of course, we were saved by Enki allowing Utnapishtim to build a boat and save a few. That's another story. But if Nibiru was in the neighborhood at the time of the flood, which we make the assumption it was, and Sitchin is the one who put that out, and Sitchin is the one who made the 3,600-year divisions as to where historical changes occurred in the history of humanity. Significant changes occurred at every 3,600-year mark. So those numbers that I gave earlier are pretty much his numbers. So I've always known him to say that.